Hello class, and welcome to Module 13, your first introduction to ArcPy, where you're going to learn how the Esri software, the ArcGIS software, has incorporated Python into its system, and your geoprocessing overview. So this is our first module where we are combining your Python skills and your previous GIS skills. So some of this week is going to be a little bit of a refresher on some of those GIS concepts and calling them geoprocessing skills. So if this geoprocessing term is something that's new to you, you'll be very familiar with it by the end of the module, and you'll recognize that you've been doing this all along in all of your GIS classes. But this week, one thing I wanted to make sure to do, because as you can see here highlighted in yellow, the module is very full of content. You need to make sure you're getting through the content leading up to your two primary, your primary activity and your primary assignment for the week. So there's a lot leading up to that, and I want to make sure that you are there landing on 13.9, preferably by about Wednesday in the week. So for this particular module, I know that when you land on your weekly activities and you click on the links to the modules, it takes you to this page, but I wanted to come here and point out this week to you, specifically in the module listing, so you can see everything that's in here. So these things at the beginning here, the what is ArcPy, what is geoprocessing, environment settings, and geoprocessing with ArcPy and ArcGIS, these are smaller bits of content with a mix of videos and some things to read. Then there's going to be a quiz that assesses all of this. And then after that is when we're going to toss you back into your textbook. So chapter 5 is a long chapter full of lots of information, but remember, when you're reading the textbook, you're not tasked with running all of the code that is in that particular text, in that particular chapter. You're going to have an exercise that's tied to chapter 5 from the author, where he's going to go through and highlight the main pieces within the chapter. And you're going to have the data to work through that exercise as well. So that's where you get your practice application from the textbook chapter reading. So the text should just be used as a reference, read through it, and then go through and do the assignment associated with the text. Then after that, you'll see that there's another piece of information about tool messaging and ArcPy, and then you land on 13.9 and 13.10. This is your primary activity. This is another guided scripting activity. So you've had guided scripting activities all throughout the semester leading up to this. This one just happens to incorporate GIS data and GIS operations. And then you have your first assignment. Parts of this assignment are guided. Other parts are places where you just have to kind of think and figure it out on your own. So plan for the fact that there's going to be some trial and error in this. So this is getting you familiar and practicing with the concept of having to kind of think on your feet when you're at task to accomplish a particular task using your Python and your ArcPy skills. So very doable at this stage. You have all of the things that you need to accomplish it. Just understand that this assignment is probably going to take longer than the activity before it, and you need to plan for an appropriate amount of time to get through that. So let's go through here and let's look to see, let's look at all these landing pages for Module 13. Okay, so the first thing here, what is ArcPy? This is going to introduce you to the ArcPy module, which is where all of our GIS tools live and are scripted in Python. So we're going to be taking advantage of the Python language, but we're going to be taking advantage of a module built for ArcGIS that is full of a ton of methods and a ton of functions that we are going to use to script out our ArcGIS geoprocessing. So here is why we have been learning about functions. From this point on, we will rarely build our own functions, but you want to understand that every time you call a GIS tool, you're using a pre-built function, and you should start to understand how that's happening, and the way you're typing in the code for these GIS tools should feel very familiar, because it's the way you would call a function that you had created. So the difference here is that you're not creating the functions. They're already in the software. They're stored within the ArcPy module. You're just going to be calling these functions and giving it all the parameters that function needs to go through. So this page here is all about what is ArcPy, some terminology that's important for you, and then just a beginner's guide from another resource. That's nice to sometimes get outside of Esri and see that other people are actually using ArcPy as well. Then this is just your reminder of geoprocessing, and your reminder that you've been doing geoprocessing all along in your GIS classes. We just don't talk about it in the same way as we do when we're going to go through and script our processes. So make sure you watch these two little videos here that introduce you to a concept you're already familiar with. but with some different terminology. Then we're going to talk about environment settings in ArcGIS. So these are things that we access all the time when we're doing our work in ArcMap or ArcPro on the desktop environment. But we have to figure out how to turn them on and off in the Python environment so we can still take advantage of them. So this is going to highlight a couple of really important environment settings that we're going to use a lot in our scripts. The workspace environment and the overwrite output environment. So make sure you read through here to understand what those two are and how they can be used to control some of the functionality of your scripts and best practices. Then we're going to start to introduce the combination here, ArcPy and ArcGIS. How do we access geoprocessing with ArcPy? So here is a nice little video that you can watch, and you should watch about that. And then finally, this is going to land you on a quiz. And this quiz is going to assess everything up until now. So module 13.1 to 13.4, all of the content in that text in those videos will be assessed here in this quiz. All right, so up till now, very easy learning material, just watching some stuff and reading and taking notes. Now at 13.6, you're going to be in your textbook. So this is where you need to go grab your textbook, read chapter 5. You need to download the PDF of the exercise that goes with chapter 5 and the data that goes with that. So make sure you unzip this data package inside of your Module 13 folder, clean it up a bit. Remember, it's been a while since we've done this semester, but clean up your data structure so that it looks something like this. And you do need to turn in one of the scripts that's in this exercise. So you're going to turn in what in the exercise is called my_clip.py. You want to update it to be your MUID in front of the name. You also need to put in the required course header comments. You need to add internal comments showing that you fully understand what each line of code is doing in the myclip.py. And I want an additional line of code that's going to print out the value held in the fcount variable with a message telling the user what the number means. So I give you an example. So the number of features in bike_clip.shape is X. So you need to this is harkening back just to your basic Python skills of putting together a print statement that also includes a variable, right? So this is just giving the script some valuable output and information to the user. And I want you to add in a final line of code that turns off the overwrite output environment. So you've learned in some of the material before this that the best practice for that particular environment is to turn it on at the beginning of a script and turn it off. And that just helps to protect your data as you move on in the same Python session. All right, so that's the textbook. And then here is where you will turn in the information. So that was the learning material telling you what you'll need to do, and you'll land on this particular page to turn all of that in. After that, you're going to learn about tool messaging. So tool messaging are really all of those messages that you see scroll past you when you're running your geoprocessing tools in ArcPro or ArcMap. We're going to learn how we can gain access to those and see those using ArcPy. So the three that you're going to be learning about here are get messages, get message count, and get message. So this is an important video to watch to understand how these three work and how we can incorporate them into our code. Finally, you're going to land on 13.9, so that should sound familiar because that's one of these important activities. This is a guided scripting activity where you're going to start to play with, again, ArcPy. You're going to be working with those environment settings and also learning about how to incorporate the messages, and you're going to do some tool chaining. You're going to take the output from one tool, put it into another tool. So you're going to start to do a little bit more of a complicated GIS process here with this activity. So make sure you download this Word document and pay close attention to the submission requirements. They are at the end of that Word document. So get that turned in here to the assignment page in Canvas. And then finally, your last thing for this particular module is you're going to do a larger geoprocessing script that is somewhat guided and somewhat left on your own. So this is a module culminating assignment, so it's going to take a little bit longer than the other assignments that you've had throughout the course of this module, and that's just fine. That's the intention. You have all of the skills necessary to complete this script, but even when I start to write scripts new, there's gonna be some bumps along the way. You're gonna get some errors. You're just gonna have to go back and look at it. If you spend, more than 15, 20 minutes on a part of the script and it's just not working, that's when you need to reach out to either myself or the TA for help. That's what we're here for. So plan accordingly that there's time during the day also for us to be able to respond to your emails. You want to make sure you download the Word document. It will also, again, tell you very clearly what you need to turn in for the assignment, and download the data package that is for this assignment. And that's what you're going to be doing as your culmination of learning of the introduction of geoprocessing in ArcPy. So a very full week, but if you've been waiting to get to the GIS part of the class, here you are. And from here to the end of the semester, we will stay and we will continue to learn about how to work with our spatial data and how to do our geoprocessing tasks and our geoprocessing in our GIS projects using ArcPy instead of opening up ArcMap or ArcPro. So best wishes on everything for the module. Again, like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And your goal for the end of all of these is always to get to your dancing snake telling you you're done for the module. So this week he's actually telling you you're done for the week because you only had one module to get through. So I look forward to hearing from you and have a good week.